Hello, guys. Hello. I am Kyle. This is NICUP, the ADHD podcast. Um, this is the start of a new series, a mini series called Inside the Whirlwind. And the reason that I'm doing this mini series is to talk about me. Um, I'm documenting what my life and my head are like in real time in my own language while I'm under pressure, trying to stay functional. I'm trying to be the dad that I want to be. I'm trying to manage my health, my mind, and everything else that comes with it. So I'm not necessarily speaking for everyone with ADHD. I'm not trying to tell anyone what they do or don't have. People experience ADHD very differently, and people have different levels of severity with different support networks. They live different lives. In this mini series, I'm just talking about me. So there's not much to get into debates about. If I mention science, then it'll only be the basics that are solid and relevant. The executive functions, attention regulation, impulsivity, emotional regulation, the stuff that helps explain what I'm describing. Because I keep hearing that ADHD gets spoken about like it's a personality type, as if it's like quirky or funny. Like it's like, oh, he can't sit still. He gets distracted. He always forgets stuff. And of course, some of that's real. Some of that is very real. Loads of people live with those symptoms on a daily basis, and it can be extremely hard to cope when it's repetitive and you don't get a break from it. But for me, the biggest damage hasn't been forgetting my keys. A real life challenge for me is getting to a point where I can even feel well enough to need my keys, whether I'm stable enough to leave the house, whether my head's quiet enough to drive safely, whether I'm going to spiral on the way out the door, or whether I'm going to start something and just not finish it, or get overwhelmed in public and then have to like fight my way back to get into a decent baseline. That's the level that this sits at for me. It's not cute. It's not a joke. It's not, oh, I forgot my wallet. It's day to day functioning, everyday tasks. There's a brain management side to ADHD, planning, prioritizing, follow through, time, memory control. All of that matters a lot. Things like follow through, it matters a huge amount to me because I'm a man of my word. I think when I was younger, I don't think that I valued that as much as I should have. But as I've got older, I understand the value of being a man of your word or being a person of your word. And to me, that means the most. I think having the connection I do with my children affects that so much because I will never say anything to my children I won't pull through on. Matter of fact, anybody. I'll always pull through on what I say. I like to be held accountable and I like that pressure. But I think that that's because it aligns with the way an ADHD brain works when it comes to urgency and interest. But when it comes to situations like promising my son some toys that he wanted, he loves Madagascar. And he wanted some toys, some soft toys, and I had to drive about 2 hours. It ended up taking me about 3.5 because I've ended up in a flood. And I knew there was a flood. I knew I was going to get caught in a flood, but I had to get there. And I found a way, and he had the toys the next day, like I'd promised him, even though I got home at 3 or 4 a.m. Something silly. It's about your name and not necessarily how people see me, because that doesn't affect me in the slightest. People are always going to have opinions of you. That doesn't matter. One person will have one opinion of you, somebody else will have another. And Neither of them matter, whether they're good or bad. It's about your intentions. It's about what's inside of you, what matters. Because if you keep trying to do the same or the right things, then I think a lot of the time you're going to end up with some decent results. As long as your intentions are pure, you're being honest with yourself at least, I feel that you'll get somewhere. But already I'm going off track. Already. So where I was going with this is, for me, the place where everything begins is RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And I've spoken about this on 3 different episodes in the first series that I've done. That's the trigger point for me. That's the thing that can set the whole day off. And when I say it sets me off, I don't mean I'm sat there upset over nothing. I mean it like it can hit a nerve and then my whole system will react to it. It could be tone, dismissal, being ignored, being misunderstood. Um, Someone speaking to me like I'm an idiot, someone moving funny with me, someone along those lines. Okay, and it's like my body flicks into alert then. And just to be clear here, when I say alarm system, I'm talking about that fight or flight switch, okay? That part of you that goes on guard, not because you're in physical danger, but because my brain reads rejection or disrespect like a threat. So instead of it being something I can just brush off, like the majority of neurotypical people can do, it turns into a full reaction. So I can go from being all right to being in a dark mood very, very fast. Snap of a fingers. I can shut down completely. I can lose all drive to go out or do anything and just say, fuck it all. Forget it. I ain't doing nothing. Or I can go the other way and then go into fight mode. Then I'm sharp, I'm reactive, I'm ready to defend myself. And then comes the loop after it, right? Because only once that switch has gone, my head doesn't just drop it, it replays it, analyzes it, runs it back. It thinks, what should I have said? It questions what the other person meant and goes round and round, sometimes for hours, sometimes it will sit there for days in the back of my mind. And once that's triggered, everything else gets worse. The thoughts get louder, the body feels more on edge, I get way more impulsive, all my patience just disappears. And even simple tasks, they start to feel super heavy. And it's not because they're hard. It could be the easiest thing in the world, but because my system's already on the highest level of alert, it's just too much to handle. So when I say that my head's a whirlwind, I don't just mean I've got loads of thoughts, it's rushing around, I've got racing thoughts. I mean, it's thoughts, emotions, sensations, reactions, urges, and pressure. They're all happening at the same time. And on a bad day, it's not just I lose direction or I get distracted. It can be like full overload, like proper overload. All I can do is try and explain things in the best way I can. I guess that's why I'm doing the podcast. But what I mean by that is, the kind where your brain feels like it's running too many programs at once and none of them will close. Or where everything feels like urgent and nothing's manageable. You cannot pin one thing down. Like, you can't hold a plan in your head like long enough to execute it. Starting things and just forgetting what you started. Pick up your phone, got no idea why you picked your phone up. You try and do something simple and it turns into 20 steps. I get to a stage where I cannot tolerate noise or delays. If I'm going, I'm rushing someone. Come on, people talking too much. That's a massive thing for me. Or even making choices, because my system's just maxed out already. And when it hits that point, it's not that I'm being dramatic. It's not that I'm in a mood. And it's not that I can't be bothered. It's your ability to function dropping out. You can feel it. Your mind stops cooperating. Your body feels all weird, like irritated, restless. I guess you either freeze or you pace, or end up doing pointless things that don't even help. They just burn off the pressure. It's like being stuck in a mental traffic jam where you can hear the chaos, but just it's impossible to clear. So I guess the best way to explain all of this is to start with the one thing that decides what kind of day I'm going to have before I've even done anything, right? Medication. And this is the bit that decides whether I'm steering the day or whether the day is steering me. And we have to get this clear as well, okay? I'm not saying that medication makes me normal, whatever normal is, as I always say, because it doesn't, right? I still have a fast head. I still have loads of thoughts. I still get ideas constantly. I still jump around. None of that disappears. That's something that I've been asked quite a few times. My friends' wives asked me. Um, Two of my friends' wives have asked me, sorry. A couple of people that I've had conversations with, they've asked that same question: how much will medication change me? It doesn't like it doesn't change who you are as a person in terms of your morals or your your traits. You know, you're still you. And anyone that knows me from prior to being medicated and post medication, they'll say the same thing. I'm very different in a lot of ways. I'm very similar in other ways. It doesn't take away who you are. It doesn't lessen your personality. It just assists you with the things you need assistance with. So what it does for me is it gives me a gap, like a tiny pause between a thought and an action. But that tiny pause is massive because without it, if I'm stressed or I'm overstimulated, I can react instantly. I say stuff that I shouldn't. I make decisions too fast, end up in rabbit holes, start 10 things and finish absolutely none of it, or just get dragged about by whatever my brain throws at me next, little things that are interesting. With medication, I'm not calm as such, I'm just more steerable. I can sometimes catch myself, I can sometimes choose, I can sometimes slow the reaction down by a couple of seconds. And the annoying part is, right, the biggest battle is remembering to take it properly in the first place. Because the thing that helps me function requires functioning to take. So I'll set an alarm, the alarm goes off, I take it immediately, then great. But if I don't take it right there and then, the whole day can go left in the stupidest way because the next battle starts. I don't know if I've taken it or not. And I know that that might sound ridiculous to you, right? If you've never had to live like this, it might sound stupid, but this is real, okay? I'm now stuck doing this mental maths that most people don't have to do. I've basically got a couple of options, okay? I either take it again and risk double dosing, which could probably feel quite uncomfortable, right? I can leave it and just kind of accept that I'm not going to be medicated until my alarm goes off in 4.5 hours for my next dose. Or I can leave it for a couple of hours, see if I'm noticing a change in my behaviors and if I'm getting that pause in my brain. And if I'm not, then I've probably not taken it and I could take it then. So that's what I have to deal with if I haven't taken it in the morning. And that's not a nice, calm decision because if you wait and you've actually missed it, you're already behind before you start. So sometimes I end up in this stupid situation where the whole morning is me second guessing myself, trying to piece together whether I took it. And then that alone kicks off stress because uncertainty is one of the biggest triggers for my brain. Now, when my kids are involved, it becomes even sharper because I don't have the luxury of being unmedicated and chaotic when I'm responsible for them. And I want to be clear about this too, right? Just because I have to be careful with the things I say, unfortunately. What I mean by that is, I'm not saying I can't parent unmedicated, okay? I can. 1,000,000%. I have. I've done it numerous times, but the cost is higher, okay? If I'm unmedicated with my babies, then my overstimulation risk is higher. And my attention can get pulled away, I suppose, in ways that I hate, like reaching for my phone or anything that takes my full attention away from my children. I try not to use my phone at all when I'm with my kids. So if I'm not medicated, there's more chance that I'll check when a message comes through, rather than waiting until they're not with me or wait until they're napping. And the bare minimum that they deserve is to have my full attention. That's the standard that I hold myself to, and they deserve nothing less than that. And that's what I will always give them. But sometimes in that moment where I don't know if I've taken it, I've had to take the risk and just take the medication again anyway. Luckily, I've been lucky and I've never double dosed when I'm with my children. But being present and regulated with my children matters more to me than sitting there unmedicated, hoping for the best. And to be honest, it's not just about attention. I'm also very, very protective with them. Maybe too protective sometimes, I suppose. But I'm protective for a reason. I'm protective because I've got proof that bad things can happen to your children without warning. I'm not talking about fear in theory, I mean real life scenarios. So my brain doesn't have the luxury of pretending that the world is always safe. And once you've seen that, you don't get to unsee it, you know? I don't get to unsee my stillborn baby's face. Not that I'd ever want to, but I wish he was here with us and I could show him off with his siblings. But when people say things like you're worrying too much or relax or they'll be fine, I hear it, but it doesn't land the same for me because I know how quick life can change. I know you can be doing everything normal, everything right, and still end up in a situation that you never saw coming. So yeah, sometimes I probably am a bit OTT. I'm aware of that. I know I can be intense. I can be a bit, no, don't do that. Please be careful. Watch that. And I get that to someone else, it might look like I'm restricting them, but it's not control. None of this is about control. It's just pure love. It's just me trying to protect their childhood because they deserve a childhood where they feel safe and happy and free. And I want them to have the best possible life, not just survive. And it's also because they're all I've got. They're my purpose. They're my heart. So if my protectiveness comes out strong sometimes, it's because the thought of anything happening to them is unbearable. And I would always rather be a little bit overprotective than ever be sat there thinking I should have been more switched on. I'm not taking chances with the only thing that I care about more than myself. But before I go off track again too much, back to the medication, that's the reality. It's not neat, it's not perfect, it's just the decisions that I'm forced to make. Now, even with the medication, I still get the whirlwind. The thoughts don't stop. The difference is that I can sometimes hold a thought long enough to decide what to do with it. Because my default setting is problem solving. Now, I don't mean that I'm looking for problems. I mean, if something exists that needs sorting, my brain latches onto it and wants to fix it immediately, fully, and even if it's not urgent. So when I'm medicated, I can digest problems better. I can work through them without as much chaos. But when I'm not medicated or when I'm slipping into overload, it's like the problem solving turns into something else. It turns into option spam. There's endless options. There's endless branches, endless what ifs, and nothing ever closes. And this is where I need to explain what a bad day looks like for me in real life because people picture it wrong, I think. I think people think ADHD bad day means you're just a bit distracted or along those lines, right? You can't concentrate, so on. For me, a bad day can build up slowly and then hit hard. It's not always instant, it's a creeper. It can build over hours. And when it starts slipping, it's not only that I lose direction in my head, sometimes I become externally hyperactive as well, like visibly. Like I'm more talkative, I'm more restless, I'm more intense. People would probably describe me as on one. And if you don't understand what you're looking at, it can probably come across like I'm being like real silly or immature or just trying to be disruptive when I'm not. Okay, I'm not. It's not for attention. I'm not trying to annoy anybody, but it's like my system just can't stay settled, and that can throw plans off completely. Because even if there was a plan in place, my brain will not stick to it. It will just jump and then improvise and then react and then it will change route mid route, and then that's where the friction happens. Because when other people see it, they'll sometimes respond with the exact kind of comments that light up RSD, like, why are you acting so immature? Or you're doing too much. You're just being completely unnecessary. Why are you being like this? Or the calm, the famous one, calm down. Like, so even if something like road rage, one little flashpoint, someone says something, and it's not just irritation, it's now RSD on top of everything. And once that hits, it can ruin the whole day because now I'm not just overloaded, I'm triggered, I'm on guard, I'm replaying it, I get stuck in it, and I'm trying to function while my brain is basically arguing with itself and scanning for threat at the same time. So, yeah, part of it is losing control of thought direction, but on a bad day, it can be a full system issue. The internal whirlwind just gets louder and louder. The external behavior starts getting a bit out of hand. And then the social consequences start to trigger RSD. And then this makes the whole thing spiral. That's the reality of it. So you end up with something that looks stupid from the outside, but feels horrendous from the inside. I'll give you a proper normal example, right? This is a little story, I suppose, which is just the best way or the easiest way, I suppose, to describe ADHD or a bad day or missed medication. The other day, I wanted some food. That's it, just food. It was kind of late. It was like 11 p.m., but that's that's a normal time for me to eat. I fast all day, so I wanted something nice to eat. So I was going to order from a place that was about half an hour away from where I was. And I thought, it's long. Tesco's 5 minutes away. I'll just go Tesco. So the plan was originally to just save time because it was all a bit long. So I go into Tesco. Now I'm walking around. I'm on the phone. Not once, not twice, 6, 7 times, I'd say. And I'm asking all sorts of questions. I'm saying, have you got this? Have you got that? What's there? What's in your cupboard? So on, so on, so on, right? And I'm stood in Tesco. I'm looking at everything I could want anyway. So now, what is it that I'm doing here? Now, what I'm doing is I'm basically using another person to regulate my decisions because my head is overloaded and I can't close anything on my own. So for me, the thoughts just keep multiplying. So I go from, I can't even remember what it started with, but I remember wanting cheese on toast. Okay. That's like a go-to thing for me. I like cheese on toast. It's nice, it's easy, it's quick. Then I'm like, no, no, I want a chicken sandwich. I'm like, no, I want a chicken sandwich, but I'm going to make cheese on toast and use toast as the bread for the sandwich. Yeah, sweet. That's what I'm going to do. So I start heading down that aisle. Now, on the way, I see Scampi. And I'm like, yeah, I fancy some Scampi, actually. Yeah, I'm going to grab Scampi. So I buy Scampi. So then I'm walking, thinking, oh, what am I going to have? Obviously, chips. Right. So I'm back on the phone. Have you got chips? Now, as I'm walking towards the frozen section, I've gone down the chilled aisle. And then I see mints. So I'm thinking now, oh, maybe I'll get mints and replicate the burger place I was going to order from. And then It's basically having the same thing. So I'm back on the phone. Have you got mints? Have you got cheese? Have you got this? Now, as that's happening, it's twigged because I'm in the chilled aisle. I'm obviously still walking around. I'm. It's now twigged that I've seen Greek yogurt and this idea that I'd seen on TikTok, something to do with putting biscuits and strawberries or something in the yogurt and it makes it into a cheesecake. But I'd already put the phone down, so now I've picked the phone up again. So we're talking probably the seventh or eighth time now. I'm calling. Have you got biscuit? Have you got this? Have you got that? It's constant. It's mad. Like it was just one thing after another, and that's not rare. That's like when I'm in that mode, it's just constant, and is there's no rest, there's no calm, there's no right decision being made. It's just a new idea, a new branch, a new plan of the original plan, and the time's passing, and I'm not even aware of how long I'm there. And one thing that's very important, okay, I was not enjoying this. Now I can say it and laugh, but at the time, I just wanted some food. So when I say about ADHD, it's not fun and random. It's not quirky. It's stressful. That is stressful. It's mental noise. It's the feeling of being pulled around by your own brain. You can't. It was impossible to choose what I wanted to eat. That's crazy. And this is one of the one of the maddest things about all of this, right? The best part yet, I suppose. After all of that, I spent £47 in Tesco, I think. I came out of Tesco and I drove straight to the restaurant that I was going to in the first place and ordered food. I went and had food there. So I wasted nearly an hour doing chaos that felt like chaos. I felt very stressed when I walked out of there and still ended up doing the original thing. So that's what I mean when I said about it being a creeper and then a hit, because in that moment, the overload has already happened. It's already visible. People who know me, they can tell because I become scatty and probably a lot more intense. And again, like I said, on one, it was so obvious that I was unmedicated. That's how clear the change can be. And that example is the cleanest way that I can explain it. It's not that I don't care. It's not that I'm lazy. It's not that I'm stupid. It's the moment my executive function drops, I can't keep decisions closed. I can't keep time straight. And I can't keep my thoughts on rails. And when your brain works like that, the world becomes harder by default because the world is basically a long list of close the loop tasks. You have to pay this, you have to reply to that, remember this, do this by this date, don't forget this letter, don't miss that deadline, don't say the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time, keep calm, keep polite, stay organized. That's the real clash. So medication to me is not just a pill. Is really not. It's the thing that helps me keep my head from slipping into that state as often as I would. And it helps me pull myself back when I can feel it starting. And that's why the first battle of my day is often, did I take it or did I not? And what happens if I get it wrong? Now, when you understand that, you start noticing another thing. A lot of the time, what people call anxiety in me isn't really anxiety the way that people mean it. It's not me sitting there worrying about a scenario or sitting there thinking something bad's going to happen. That isn't what anxiety is or was to me. A lot of the time, it's just internal hyperactivity. It's my nervous system going crazy. And it usually shows up properly when I'm unmedicated or when I'm overtired or when I've been running on nothing but stress for too long. That's when I'll feel it physically. I get a tight chest, I get restless, that pressure feeling, like you want to crawl out of your own skin, when there's like impending doom. Like you can't just sit there and be normal. Even if nothing's happening around you, your body just feels like something's happening. And if you've been mislabeled for years, like I was, you start to question your own body. Because if you keep being told it's anxiety and it doesn't feel like anxiety, you start thinking, right, so what is it then? And that was where health anxiety came into it for me. It was such a huge thing for so many years because once you start getting all these weird sensations and you don't understand them properly, your brain starts scanning for explanations. And having a brain like mine, it doesn't scan for the calm explanation first, it scans for the worst one. So you end up in this loop of, is something wrong with me? Is there something deeper going on? Is this a sign of something serious? Why do I feel like this? And the more that you scan, the more that you worry, and the more that your body reacts. And then that reaction becomes more evidence in your head that something's wrong, and the loop tightens. So, on one hand, you've got internal hyperactivity, that's your nervous system going a bit mad. And then on the other hand, you've got the brain interpreting that your your nervous system going crazy is a danger. So when they link up, you can end up feeling genuinely fucked with nowhere to go. And what happens for me sometimes is it gets real rough at night. Okay. Because if I'm overtired, I'm unmedicated and I can't sleep, my head can go into what I call the dark tunnel. Okay. Now, there's a bit of a trigger warning here for some people because it was always such a massive thing for me. All right. I want to explain it the best I can because it's not the same as being scared or having a normal worry. Okay. This is more like a phobia, right? And it's a phobia of death, right? And I've still not even addressed this fully with myself, but I have to try and share it. Now, I'm not talking about, oh, death is scary in some abstract way. I mean, it hits like a wave and fully takes over. And the reason it hits so hard is because my brain locks onto the fact that we don't know what happens when we die. And that unknown, when I'm already unregulated, becomes unbearable. People talk about fight or flight, and I get that. I know what it is. I've been there probably thousands of times in my life. This is different. This is way, way, way stronger. It's not like the adrenaline you get before a fight. It's not like being nervous or not even like a panic attack. It's way deeper than that. It's heavier. It's more consuming. It's literally like it paralyzes your brain. It's like your brain's or your mind's falling into a tunnel where the walls are just made of fear and you just cannot reason. It's impossible. A state is the way that I describe it. And when I'm in that state, it's not even always linked to what's happening in my life that day. Hardly ever. It's linked to being overtired, unmedicated, and unregulated. Like my system is already too raw, and then it grabs the biggest unknown suggestion it can find and then just run with it. And for me, that's what I describe as the dark tunnel. And like I said, I'm saying that out loud because it's a part of the whirlwind too. I am the whirlwind. It's not just the busy thoughts and the distraction, but the moments where your brain goes somewhere that genuinely feels horrible and you're sat thinking, why is my head even doing this to me? Now, there's a reason I'm explaining all of this, okay? The internal hyperactivity, the health anxiety scanning, the dark tunnel, is because it links into how I try to regulate myself because my nervous system doesn't naturally calm down. Whereas the majority of neurotypical brains will. So I've had to find ways to burn that pressure off. And the biggest one for me is training. I run pretty much every day. I'm in the gym. I do my thing in the gym. Majority of days I'll run 5K. Some days I'll run 10K. Some days I'll do more. Some days I'll burn 2,000 calories in the gym. And it's not to impress anyone. I could not give a flying fuck what anyone has to say about me or thinks of me. That's a I don't know whether it's a personality trait or a skill that I learned a few years ago now, probably when I come home from prison, and it's stuck with me ever since. And I'm glad. Um, but I'm saying this in this way because it's one of the only things that consistently brings my head down a level. It's like if I don't move, the pressure just stays trapped inside of me, and if I do move, it gives it somewhere to go. So movement isn't just fitness for me; it's regulation. It's me trying to control my own nervous system. And when I'm in good shape, I feel like at least I've got one advantage that no one can take from me. Because health is something that I can control more than most things, in terms of giving myself the best opportunity to live as long as possible for my children, right? But even with that, even with training and even with trying to do the right stuff, there's still the other side of regulation, the destructive side. Okay. And talking about that is imperative, because I never have, and people see things through a different lens to what they should see it. I'm going to talk about gambling. I think a lot of people will be surprised if they listen to this and hear that. But I need to talk about this properly, okay? Because the way people usually describe gambling addiction doesn't fit me, okay? If you know me well, if you know me, yeah, you'd have to know me well. You'd know how much I've lost, or you'd have an idea of the effect gambling's had on my life. For me, this isn't some fun risk taking thing, okay? It's not about chasing a big win. It's not a story where I'm sat thinking, if I win this, my life's sorted. It's way, way, way worse than that, in a different way. It's a habit. And I actually think that there's only one thing worse than an addiction, and that is a habit. Because a habit is automatic, it's instinctual. You don't sit there negotiating with yourself. You don't wake up in the morning and decide, oh, today I'm going to brush my teeth because I'm addicted to brushing my teeth. You just do it. It's built in you, it's routine. And that's what gambling became for me. It's like my brain's filed it under something that I do. The same way that it files eating and checking your phone if it goes off, brushing your teeth. It's a loop that I drop into without even realizing. And once I'm in it, time just disappears. And the maddest part, I think, of all of that is that a lot of the time, I can't even say a lot of the time, the whole time, I'm never enjoying it. Never. I can spend an entire day gambling and be unhappy the whole time, stressed out, angry, on edge, can't relax, not excited, I'm just locked in. So when people say things like, just stop, or why don't you just stop? That, like, it sounds great, but it's not like I'm choosing it fresh each time. That's the whole point. It's habitual, it's automatic, and it affects everything. It affects my mood, my patience, it affects how fast my head is going, my sleep, how I speak to people, whether I can focus on anything else. Because even if I'm doing something else, part of my brain is still half in the gambling loop, thinking about the next bet, the last bet, the loss, the win, what's on tonight and tomorrow. It becomes background noise that never fully switches off. And the way I can explain it best is this: it's like your hand reaching for your phone without you deciding to. You're not sat there thinking, I'm going to pick my phone up now. It just happens, doesn't it? It's automatic, it's muscle memory. And even when you know it's going to waste your time and annoy you, you still end up doing it because the habit fires before the logic gets a chance to intervene. The other part of it as well, I suppose, is that I hate bookies. It just, I think a lot of gamblers do. Um, it's not like I hate what they represent or any of that. You know, they're just a company. I understand how it works. It's a business. It's a very successful business. What I hate about it, I suppose, is how much I've lost, I think. And it feels like when I'm in that mode, it feels like I'm in a constant battle with them. And the sick part about that is, in that mode, is the only way you can get your money back from them is by sacrificing more. It's the only way it works. So even if I know in my head I'm never going to get everything I've lost back, it's like I go into a bit of a war with them for however long it goes on for, until I think, right, that's that. I'm not, I'm 4 figures, 5 figures in, no more. No, that's it. Or it gets to a point where I win 4 or 5 figures and I say, right, sweet, I'll walk away for the day. So talking about that, when I lose, the consequences aren't just I've lost money. It then hits with instant pressure. It's instant stress. It's panic thinking. Now I'm thinking about bills. I'm thinking about money that's due. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do to cover this and cover that. And now my brain goes into recovery mode. And obviously, people would think recovery mode, you start patching things up. No. Recovery mode usually looks like more gambling and more chasing and more bad decisions and more mental noise. So, gambling for me isn't some clean urge story, it's a habit loop that's wired into my day to day. And the fallout from it is what creates even more pressures in my life. And once money pressures become a part of your life, the world feels different. Everything gets sharper. Because ADHD doesn't just affect your thoughts, it affects your admin, time, your memory, follow through, like I mentioned earlier. So that all affected me in my younger years with debt. And for me, debt hasn't come from not having the money to pay it. I think every bit of it has come from forgetting to pay things, missing deadlines, not opening letters because my head's just somewhere else, meaning to do something and it just disappears from my mind completely. And the punishment system for that is brutal. You know, the late fees, the charges, the threats, escalations, credit damage, stress, pressure, etc. And then when you contact companies, you're already on edge because your nervous system's already maxed out, right? You're trying to fix something that you probably should have fixed earlier, but you didn't because your brain's somewhere else. But now you're being punished for it. Now, that can sound like excuses, okay? That can sound like, that's just an excuse. You know, everyone's got to pay their bills and so on, so on. To some sort of level, I understand, okay? But what frustrates me the most is that there is no specialized support for neurodivergent people in those moments, okay? If you're overwhelmed and you swear, they don't think this person's dysregulated. They think this person's rude. So then you get punished again. Then they end the call. Then they refuse to help. They flag your account, tell you to calm down. They, you know, treat you like a problem. And then that just lights up RSD because now you're not just dealing with the bill. You're dealing with the disrespect, the dismissal, being treated like you're an idiot, and then it becomes layered. You got it is a mistake or it's ADHD influenced. That leads to a penalty. That leads to stress, dysregulation. The customer service is shit because there is no support for neurodivergent people in the majority of call centers. That triggers RSD and your whole day's fucked. That's a basic loop. And that's why when people say just be organized, I just laugh because organization isn't a personality trait to me. It's a fight. It is a full on scrap. But this is where I'm going to try and move the episode before I get into a bit of a loop, I suppose, to the environment. Okay, because the truth is, the whirlwind isn't just my brain. It's my brain trying to function inside systems that are built for consistency. They're built for deadlines, polite communication, perfect follow through. And then you're punished when you can't meet that standard. And that brings me to the bigger picture pressures I'm carrying right now. And the first thing, stability, actual stability, housing, money, the basics. Because when you don't feel secure where you live, it infects everything. It's not just a worry, it's your nervous system constantly scanning. It affects your sleep, your mood, how you parent, it affects how you plan, it affects anything that you can commit to. And when you've got ADHD, that instability isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous because it makes the executive function side worse. Because the more pressure, the more mistakes. And the more mistakes, the more penalties, the more penalties, the more pressure. It's just round and round. The second one is income and direction. Not because I'm obsessed with being filthy rich, because you that's not the situation. That's not money doesn't mean anything to me. I've had money, I've lost money. All I care about is my children and living for as long as I possibly can with them. That's it. But what I mean is that you can't breathe in modern life without money coming in. It's impossible. So even when I'm trying to build something long term, like say like this podcast, which I'm trying to turn to a brand, I'm still stuck with the daily reality of how am I covering today? And that pressure makes it harder to focus on anything that doesn't pay immediately. And that normally takes some sort of connection or networking. But then that brings in my trust side, because I don't have a support network. I don't have family to lean on. I have a brother that has his own family and children that he has to be there for and support. I don't have anyone else. Very, very little friends. And I don't trust anyone. I trust one person on earth, Dr. Parry. That's it. And I'm not saying that like I'm proud of it. I'm saying it because it's a fact about how I live. In practice, it probably looks like distance. It could look like me being blunt, being abrupt. It might look like I'm keeping people at arm's length. And sometimes it means I'd rather do everything myself, even when it's burning me out. Because the minute you rely on someone, you risk being let down. And when you've been let down enough times, your brain starts treating trust like a risk, not a comfort, which brings it into the system side. And I'm not doing any political episode here. I hate politics. I hate the government. I don't care for any of that shit. But we are in a system in this country. And it can, well, it feels like everything is designed to punish mistakes. Like, you don't get one slip, you get a fee, a charge, a threat, a deadline, escalation. And none of it's built around, like, why did this happen? It's just built around pay the price. And for someone like me, fairness matters a lot, probably too much. Because when things feel unfair and consequences don't feel consistent, people get treated differently. When the rules feel like they move depending on who you are, it doesn't just annoy me. It loads me up. It puts me on guard. It adds anger into the mix, and anger plus ADHD plus stress, that's not a calm combination. When you see these articles in the paper, a paedophile suspended sentence, a drug dealer 5 years. It's it's incomprehensible. How can I'm not even going to go into it. But the worst part about it is that you're in an environment for so long that you start adapting to it. Okay, you start living on guard. You start expecting problems. You start preloading anger because it feels like that's the only way to protect yourself from being walked over. And that's why I say my head is a whirlwind 99% of the time. Because it isn't just my thoughts, it's my thoughts reacting to a life that constantly demands more control than my brain naturally has. Now, before I go into this next episode topic, I need to say what this baseline does to me as a person day to day, because it isn't just thoughts and systems. It changes how I live, how I speak, how I move, how I carry myself. Because one of the biggest things people misunderstand about me is they think I'm just intense by choice. Like, I wake up and I decide, right, I'm going to be blunt, I'm going to be sharp today, or I'm just going to be on edge all day. I don't, obviously. It's adaptation. If your nervous system is always running hot, you end up living like you're always half in defense mode. You're scanning for problems before they happen. You're expecting something to go wrong, expecting someone to try it on, expecting somebody to take the piss, and that changes how you come across. So when I say I don't trust anyone or anything, I don't mean some dramatic statement. I mean, in practice, it looks like distance. It looks like me keeping distance. It can look like I'm being blunt and abrupt, or I'm not interested in small talk. And it can look like that, like I mentioned, keeping people at arm's length. Um, or even not letting people get close enough so that they have any leverage over me. And I'm aware that it can come across rude. People have told me loads of times. But what I have to say is this: I'm not pretending anymore. Do you know what? Because pretending drains me. Filtering constantly drains me. And I'm already fighting my own head. I'm not spending the extra energy that I have putting on a version of myself that makes other people comfortable. I couldn't give a fuck. So I just own it. And sometimes, if I'm honest, I might exaggerate it a bit on purpose when it comes to keeping people at arm's length and stuff. 'Cause it's not because I want to be horrible, it's just because it keeps people away. And keeping people away has felt safer for a long time. Because trusting people has cost me. Relying on people has cost me. Letting people in has cost me, so I keep my doors shut. And what that creates is a weird contradiction because, on one hand, I won't have anyone close because I don't trust it. But on the other hand, I'm aware I've got very little family and very little friends, and life doesn't get easier as you get older. I know that. So there's a part of me that knows that this, I guess maybe it's not sustainable forever, but I guess that's one of the reasons the podcast matters so much, because I'm trying to build something real, something that lasts, and something that isn't reliant on one person being loyal or one person being fair or one system being humane. If I do end up pulling off what I want to do and building a brand and building an audience, if I build a platform, then at least I've created something that can't just be taken away because someone doesn't like my tone or doesn't understand my brain. There's something there that is almost indestructible that my children can take on. And that matters to me because I've spent a lot of my life being judged like I'm a character flaw, not a human being. And like I said, gotta be careful with what I say because of situations, whatever. I'm not here to name names. I'm not here to start drama. But I spent years being around people who love standards. They love appearances. They love how things should look. The type of people who they're very confident in their opinions, let's say, very comfortable in their world, and very quick to label anyone who doesn't fit into it. And what's weird is those types will call themselves nice. They'll say that they're welcoming. They'll say they're fair. They're supportive. But it's conditional. It's supportive as long as you're easy to be around. It's welcoming as long as you don't disrupt the vibe. It's fair as long as you behave in the exact way that you're expected to behave. And when you are the one who's different, when your brain does work different, your tone is sharper, you do get overloaded, you are trying to regulate in real time, you get judged. And it can be subtle as well. It's not always direct insults because a lot of people with those traits, they don't have it in them to be direct. So they come across with things like eye rolls, little looks, little comments that are said like jokes, that like, oh, calm down, delivered to you like you're a child. The way you're spoken to like you're a liability. The way your mistakes get remembered, but your efforts get ignored. And once that label's on you, you can feel it. You walk into a room and you can feel what people have decided about you before you've even spoken. So then you start living like you're being assessed all the time, like you're on trial for being yourself. And a crazy part of this is when you try to explain how it feels, it gets dismissed again. Like you're overthinking, you're being dramatic, or you're making a problem up. So then you stop explaining, you just absorb it, and you harden naturally. And when you haven't grown up in that sort of environment, you don't even realize how much it gets under your skin until you're deep in it. You're trying to learn the rules, learn what's acceptable, learn how to behave, whilst also fighting your own head at the same time. So, of course, you end up uncomfortable. Of course, you end up guarded. Of course, you end up sharper. If you're not being understood, you're being evaluated. And there's another pattern I've had to learn the hard way. People are very brave when it's comfortable. They're brave when you're doing well, when you're smiling, when you're easy, when you're performing, when you're fine. But when you're not fine, when you are overloaded and you're snappy and you're not regulated, your life's a bit messy and your head's loud, that's when you find out who people actually are. Because that's when they disappear or they distance themselves or they minimize or judge it from a safe distance or they turn into, yeah, that's just how you are. You're always going to be like that. Like it's a personality choice, not a nervous system that is on fire. And I'm not naive. I get it. Nobody's obligated to carry anyone. Nobody's responsible for saving me. That is not what I'm saying. I don't want to be saved by anyone or anything. What I'm saying is this: don't abandon someone when it's hard and then later try to stroll back in with a few words like that balances the books, because it doesn't. I think that it's scummy letting someone struggle in real time and you're watching them fight, watching them break down and doing nothing useful with it. Or even worse, adding judgment on top. And then later wanting to soften it with a message or a comment or a I hope you're all right or a little moment of acknowledgement. It's not because you suddenly care, but because you want to feel like you're not the kind of person who left someone to it. That's the truth. It's conscience cleaning. It's people trying to make themselves feel better about what they didn't do when it mattered. And the reason I'm so blunt about it is because I've lived the consequences of it. When you're already low and the people closest to you choose comfort over character, it teaches you something you don't unlearn. It teaches you that your value to them is conditional. It's conditional on your mood, on your tone, on being easy, and on not bringing problems along. So you stop expecting support. You stop explaining yourself. You stop asking. You stop trusting. And then people act confused about why you're cold and why you're blunt and why you keep distance. That's why. Because once you've seen how quick people are to judge you at your worst, you don't give them access to your worst ever again. You don't even give them access to your real life half the time. You keep it surface level. Control the room, control the distance. And that might not be healthy, but it's predictable, it's safer. It stops you relying on people who only show up when it's convenient for them. So I'm not interested in apologies that arrive after the damage. I'm not interested in sympathy that costs nothing. I'm not interested in words that exist to make someone else feel clean. If someone wants credit, they have to earn it in real time. When it's messy and it's hard and it's uncomfortable, when I'm not easy. Because that's the only time that it counts. Now, I'm going to be honest about what keeps me going, okay? Because that's also a part of the baseline. People always ask questions like, what's your motivation or what drives you? The obvious answer is my kids. Of course it is. But kids are the center of everything anyway. That should just be default. That's not the full answer. Outside of my children, what keeps me upright in it is a mix of things. And a lot of it isn't pretty. Pride is one of them. Not pride like ego, pride like survival. Because I've been through enough in life that I know a lot of people would have folded under. And outwardly, I act like it's nothing. I'm very much like whatever, man. It is what it is. But when I'm alone, I do have moments where I sit there and I think, fucking hell, man, you've actually been through the mill and you're still here. Crazy. Anger's another one. I've got a lot of anger for sure. A lot of anger towards injustice, towards systems. But probably most of all towards myself. Because I can see patterns, I can see what I should do, and I still fuck it. Especially with the gambling, especially with money, especially with impulsive decisions. So anger becomes fuel, and pride becomes fuel. And fear is another one. And I'm going to say it exactly how it is. There's always a realistic fear of prison in the background of my life. I've been to prison twice. And once you've got a record, assumptions get made, things escalate rapid, and your life can change in a day. So that fear acts like a guardrail because without it, it'd be easier to slip back into a life that's familiar to me, but destructive. And I don't want that life. I don't want my kids anywhere near that life. Nothing to do with it. So fear keeps me contained. And then the last thing's hope. Hope is a crazy thing because I'm not talking about fantasy hope, not delusion, just hope in the basic sense that good things can still happen, that I can still build something, that I'm not stuck in the same loop forever. Because this is something to understand. I'm not trying to sound philosophical here, but listen, without hope, you don't build anything. You just survive day to day until you can't survive anymore. So that's the baseline too, the fuel, the pride, the anger, the fear, the hope, with the kids at the center. But the last thing that I'll say about this first episode of Inside the Whirlwind is for me, this phase of my life is unstable. That's the truth. That's why I'm doing the mini series, so that I can document it, so that I can look back on it, so that it's there for me to check myself. Everything's unstable right now. Housing's unstable. Income's unstable. Systems feel hostile. My trust is low as always. My head is constant. But I'm not doing this to complain about that. It's to show how I'm trying to stay functional inside of it. Because if I can turn the whirlwind into something structured, if I can turn it into a narrative instead of just noise, then I've at least got a chance of building something out of it. So that's episode 1. Not a solution, a baseline. And episode 2 is going to be where I take one piece of this, one pressure point, and I'll go even deeper. If you've lasted till the end, then thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Please share it with anyone that you think it may help. If you resonate with anything, you want to have a chat, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm out.